Well, good morning, everybody. For the umpteenth time, I can't tell you how many times I've started this, maybe four. I don't know. I'm not going to use the same cards. Let me find my notes here. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm having trouble shuffling. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to set these down for a minute, though, and I'm going to tie my shawl and try to get it out of my way. Maybe tuck it into my pants here to keep the end of it out of my way while I shuffle. This is getting ridiculous. The end of my shawl gets caught up in my shuffling. The fringe and the bottom part of it gets caught up in my shuffling. I don't know. I'm a shawl person. I wear them all the time. That and ponchos. Anyway, which I usually crochet. So. But I got a couple of shawls that I really love. They're bamboo. They're made out of bamboo. Actually, they're so soft. If you've ever had anything made from hemp or from bamboo or any of that, they weave that into the fibers, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, they drape really well. They're so soft. It's not what you would think. I got these two at Costco years ago. They had them and they came in these really cool bamboo containers. I got a gray one and a brown one, and I just love them. I'm just in a panic if I can't find them. So it's like, oh my God. They're like my security blanket or something. I don't know. Anyway. I think I'm probably done shuffling. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you so much for coming by. If you're back, thank you. If you've clicked subscribe, thank you so much. And if you haven't, I hope you do. I do this 3 or 4 days a week, rather, not 3. I do the esoteric influences, though, every day. So look for both of these over on the side panel of my blog at Stepping Aside. The address is imsteppingaside.com. And I also write up the esoteric influence as well, so you can see a hard copy of it. And if you want to, there's also a sign up on just above the videos there at my blog to sign up for the newsletter. And what I do there is I send out the esoteric influences for the whole week on Sundays. And then I don't include all of the human design information, though. For that, you have to come to either the video and watch it, or you have to go to my blog and read the write-up on it. So. To fix my cards here. They're getting too bended. Bendy today. Anyhow, let's go ahead and get started. And we'll take our first 3 cards. I'm going to take the 13th card for randomness sake, and then we'll take a rune from the Elder Futhark bag, and we'll close out with a geomancy rune, which I don't have them over here. Let me move them. Maybe that's what the problem was. I didn't have my geomancy runes sitting in front of me. So I got confused. Anyhow, let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards. And if we need more, we'll take them. If not, then we'll move on to the runes. Here we go. The last few times I've done this, I've dropped all my cards on the floor. It was nuts. It was awful. I was like, what am I doing? We have the 4 of Swords. Respite. Letting our mind come to rest. We have a 7 energy twice today as well. The 7th month and the 16th reduces to 7, so you've got 7 magnified. And anytime that happens, you need to pay attention to the meaning of it. And what the 7 is really telling us to do is to let things settle out, just like the 4 of Swords is telling us to do. Let our perceptions settle before we make decisions today, just to be sure that we actually understand what the truth of it is. Real important. Again, anytime you see a magnification in a date, pay attention to that. So, it's a 22-year profound change. So be sure you know what that is before you act. Don't get caught up in the flow of something, in other words, before you really know what's going on. Let's take our next card. Well, we have the Emperor again. Yeah, we had the King of, what did we have the King of yesterday? Was it Swords? Or was it, no. It was the King of Swords. We had the Emperor earlier this week. He looks stern, he's the father figure. He's the guy in charge. He can't quite look you in the eye, though. You can't really see that too well. You need a magnifying glass like this one that has LED lights on the other side. If you are into tarot, I really recommend getting one. A lot of these cards are very intricate, especially the non-traditional ones, and you miss things. Even the Rider-Waite. Without that, I miss things, and the older you get, your eyesight gets worse, and so you really do need a little extra help. And with tarot cards, though, seriously, you need a magnifying glass, particularly one that has LED lights on the other side. Otherwise, you miss just the intricacies. You can look here, and you can. Well, this one really doesn't show you like the king does, the King of Swords does. But you can look on the back of his throne, and there's all the stuff. There's butterflies. There's looks like crescent moons. It's just without being able to see it up close, you're not really sure what you're looking at. So get one. If you're doing tarot, you need to have one. Here we have the Six of Wands. Going forward in shared purpose. I think we're going to need another card here, though. Let's go ahead and we'll look at the effect of the Emperor. 4 is about structure. The Empress comes before him. We start out with the Fool, then we go to the Magician, then the High Priestess, and the Empress, now the Emperor. It's about authority, but male authority. You see the rams on adorning up at the top and on the edges of his armrests there on the throne. You see behind him mountains, but they're red, aren't they? So he's got a lot of responsibilities, a lot of struggle, but he cannot look you in the eye. It's kind of askew. Let me see the direction. Okay. You see the sunflower in his left hand. He's actually looking toward his left while he holds his power, his scepter, in his right hand. The fact that he will not look you in the eye tells you that there's deception going on. That there is so much red energy in this, so much orange and red in this, tells you that his view is the only one. Too much masculine energy, too much projective energy, too much push energy, focused on what he wants to focus on. In other words, look over there while I'm doing something over here. He's going to hold the sun in his hand because he wants you to think the truth is there. Look over there while I'm doing something over here. It's the quintessential ignore the man behind the curtain. Don't look at what I'm doing, just believe what I say. He's looking in the direction of if you look at it in terms of fire and air, he's looking in the direction of, well, he's actually looking, if he's looking toward the left, actually, though, he would be looking in the direction of water and earth. That would be actually the direction, because you're looking at the negative side, so the feminine side, so the receptive side. That's the, and when I talk about I'm not talking value judgment here at all. This is just energy and the quality of it. Initiating kind of energy, I guess, versus the more passive and receptive. So what is he doing? As he's wanting you to pay attention to the passive side of things and not respond, what's he doing? So in order to know that, we have to let our mind go to rest today. Let our thoughts settle. Ignore what's going on outside that window. No, he's not dead. But the night has decided, I'm going to let my mind settle. And I'm going to know what the truth is. That he appears to be in a church could indicate that higher self is present in his awareness. As he draws that down from spirit, you see the swords coming downward. Instead of pointing up to spirit, spirit is informing him as the fourth sword here is in perfect horizontal balance. So he's balanced the masculine and feminine within, the positive and negative within, the receptive and the projective within. He's brought that to balance. Again, what we're doing today with both seven energies, reinforcing one another, we need to do that. We need to figure out what the heck the king is doing, so that we can then go forward in shared purpose with the six. Six is higher self energies. This is an expression of will, the fire element. Wands is about the will. It's about the fire element. It's about creativity. It's about the spark of life. We see victory with the wreath above there attached to the top of his staff. But everybody else is going in the same direction. He's got the laurel crown on his head. Basically the same wreath that's above there. But it's a wreath instead of a crown. We see his white horse looking at us like, hey, look at us. Look what we just did. We got on the same page. But it happened after we let our minds settle so that we could understand the deception at work. We can understand the truth. We need a card in the center of that, don't we? We need to figure out what it is that the king was doing. So that's what we need to know now with this next card. What was the king doing that caused us to, take a step back and let higher self inform? What do we know? Does this seem right to us? These are the questions you ask. It's like, yeah, something's wrong there. What's really going on? And at some point, it's so strange. I always think about this. Years ago, when Oprah was still on TV, Maya Angelou was her mentor, basically, one of them anyway, and she loved her. And I guess Maya Angelou said to her, when people tell you who they are, believe them the first time. Well, the Emperor's been telling us who he is for the entire time. And it may be that some of us don't believe it. Some of us don't understand what it means. They see it as a form of strength when in reality, it's a form of manipulation to keep them on his side and keep him in power. But it's manipulation. It's mind control. And so today, with this 7 energy magnifying in this 22 year, taking time out to really discern what you're looking at, to understand what it is in a broader context. Step outside and consider the possibility. What if he's lying? What if everything he's told us to do is wrong and is actually at the root of all the harm that's being caused now? What if that's really what this is? You have to step outside your own perception today and consider something else. And if the bells and whistles go off, well, they do. Be grateful. Be grateful that you finally got to the truth of this. But even with that, you're going to have to let it settle out so that you know. Well, we have the High Priestess. Again, inner knowing. The unconscious realm. Card 2 of the Major Arcana. Behind her is the tree of life done up in pomegranates. We see the cross on the front of her gown. Not a religious cross, but living in real balance when you come through the abyss into form, You're basically, let me get my little piece of paper here and a pen, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Well, if I could draw today, well, if you've been here before, you know I can't. So anyway. So what she's suggesting is that we live in the center of that cross, in full awareness of who we are as expressions of the Creator into form, that piece of the oversoul that is part of the greater collective that gets pulled off and put into the body, right? Expressed into the body. Typically, though, we live down here. And that gives it that feeling of working our way back to God. No, 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 no. We just need to turn our attention to who we are. We don't need to work our way back to anything. Not a thing. So anyway, back to the high priestess. So we have the fool, undeveloped potential, okay, takes the leap, then becomes, right, and then becomes human, and then, or whatever, and because this takes place other places this way. Anyway, so you're going to jump, you're going to take the leap into form, and through the abyss, but you need to do it in full awareness of who you are, and not forget. We don't need to do that now. You see, you're sitting between the pillars of Solomon from the temple. The balancing of dark and light as you move through the abyss into form. Still aware, she has the Torah on her lap. She's holding that. Still aware of the voice of spirit, letting that inform everything. As we move into the abundance of life and form. The abundance of all that we can learn, not just the physical surroundings, but everything that we can learn to bring back to the collective, because that's what we're doing. What is this experience called tangible form? And of what value is it? It's not like that's the way we all need to learn. Not all souls do this. They just do their thing. But that's what we've done here. We see the triple goddess above, the triple aspects above, rather, not the triple goddess, but the triple aspects of the goddess above on her crown. We see maiden, mother, and crone there. But it's living in balance with spirit. The emperor does not understand how to do that. The emperor does not understand what the truth of who he is really is. So he's forgotten that. He's caught up in the ego of it. He's caught up in the Aries energy of it. He's caught up in the ego energy of it all, and forgets that he needs to live in balance here in the center. Were he able to do that, then the things that he would be doing now would be very different. They would be focused on compassion and trying to save people instead of trying to stick our kids back into a veritable petri dish of virus in the fall, just so his precious little economy can get going. But do we take that chance? Perthro, 14th rune of the Elder Futhark, a 5 energy. But Perthro is about, directionality is a factor in the presentation of Perthro, but it's about fate. And who determines that? Now, the Norns would say they do. They determine men's fate. That's part of this. But in truth, I mean, this way it can be thought of as a cauldron. This way is birth. This way is death. But this is about chance, and about the chance we take when we choose to see one another as the other side of self or the other. And that's really what we're looking at here. What is the effect of one versus the effect of the other? Well, if we see everybody as the other side of self, then it's a little bit easier to move forward in shared purpose with one another, isn't it? And that's really the decision that we're thinking about here. You know, what's going on? What's this guy doing? That we need to take a time out and allow our minds to settle, allow perception to shift if possible, if that's what needs to happen, right? So that we can all change and reject his nonsense and go forward together in a unified expression of will. Understanding that it must be informed by spirit, that that's at the heart of this. This guy cannot get there. He's too wrapped up in himself. You know, there in the Thoth Tarot now, you'll see the way that the way it's presented is you've got the Empress looking at us, right, and you've got the Emperor looking back at the Empress. Well, it's the same with the King. If without her balance, without the balance of the feminine within, with that receptive self within, it's just too much projective energy, and everything is just too authoritarian, not able to see the benevolence that needs to happen, right? When you gleefully send 50 ventilators to a foreign country, we better make sure that our hospitals all have what they need. Our stockpile is woefully thin right now. Why is that? Why have we not been, not only instructing companies to, because we can do that, to send them, make them and send them out to the various places, but also to replenish the stockpile, the national stockpile? We can do both. We have the money. We just need the will. But the will of this guy is self-dealing. It's not on this country. It's only about what he can get out of this. That's all it's ever been. And so until he can balance the dark with the light, which is not going to happen at this point, it's not. It can't possibly. Take the time, if you can, to read it on Kindle, get Mary Trump's book. You're going to understand from the standpoint of a clinical psychologist and a family member who was there watching this whole thing unfold. You understand why it's not possible. It's just not possible. And so, whatever you have to do today to readjust your perception, to realign it with truth, do it. See this guy for what he is, reject it out of hand, and go forward in shared purpose, in shared direction, in a shared sense of will, so that we can manage our fate a little bit better. Are we going to simply give it up to the unknown? Or are we going to understand that we actually know a whole lot more than we want to think we do? I know that's not convenient to the anti-mask crowd, but that's just too doggone bad, right? Well, let's see. We've got 2 for air. Where's fire? There's fire. 2 for fire. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Concerns are great right now. Here's the thing about this particular rune. This is called Tristitia. It's the opposite or complement of Laetitia. Laetitia is joy, and Tristitia is sorrow. We have passive influences for fire, air, water, and a active influence for earth. So we've not been taking care of this. We've not been aligning together. We've not been taking care of. Earth would be physical security, and that I just think is the. I think it's what's going on with the pandemic. I'm sure it's other things as well. But right now, we're experiencing a lot of fundamental sorrow. A lot of people are losing people right now to the virus. Some people, their loved ones were ill anyway, and so maybe they're losing them for that. And it's not virus related, but the majority of people that are losing someone right now, and maybe multiple someones, it's due to the virus. We can argue about what we're supposed to do about it, but it's an exercise in futility. I mean, it really is just a mental exercise, because it's not going to go anywhere. Not if it doesn't make people understand that, hey, we don't have any time left. And now these idiots want to send the kids back to school. It's all about seeing this as our life here in this country is only about money and about work and the economy. All of that's important, but if we're not alive to be there, to work there, to, make all that happen, then I don't know. It's like the compassion gene or the empathy gene or the understanding that it can't all be about money and making money. It can't all be about that. Because then it simply becomes making money for the sake of making money. And you live a horrible life because you can't enjoy what you've earned. Because people who make money, I mean, unless it's wealth that's transferred, a lot of the times they work their butts off just to do it. And so whatever they get, I mean, they've earned it. But you've got to take time to actually let it work for you and to make your life better. So you got to remember other people. You can't have your focus be so much on making the almighty dollar that you can't see you have a family, that you can't see you're part of a community, that you're part of a neighborhood, that you're part of something bigger. And if you don't take care of this something bigger, and it can't just simply be money-wise that you do that with, we're not going to have this something bigger, and so there's going to be any reason for money because there won't be anybody there. It's when you fixate on one component of something that everyone loses. And this is something the guy in the Oval Office can't understand. So, and if Mary Trump's book is any indicator, and if all the other books that have been written by investigative journalists and whatnot are any indicator, then we know, even the Mueller report is any indicator, then we know change is not possible for this guy. He's never going to see this from the standpoint that he should, from the perspective that he should. And if we don't take the bull by the horns and understand that we have to see this as a wellness issue that affects everybody and we have to all get on the same page, if we can't do that, well, we're going to continue to live in the tristitia of it all instead of the laetitia of it all. It'll be the tristitia of it all, the sorrow. That will be all that we experience. For some reason, our Secretary of Education seems to think that the projection, and I'm sure it's a small one, of 14,700 and change children dying when they go back, that's acceptable. No, it isn't. Not one. Not one. Why doesn't she know that? Why doesn't the president know that? Think about that. Let it shift your perception. Get on the same page with everybody. Protect our kids. Protect your kids. Grandparents, protect your grandchildren. We can't let this continue. The insanity that is ruling us has gone on long enough. It's time to come back into balance. We can do that. He can't, but we can. And if it means that we reject out of hand this notion of opening the schools and they open and we don't send them, and that's what we do. Just keep them home. Defy it. I would. But then I ultimately homeschooled after the boys were, the youngest, he finished 4th, the oldest finished 7th. And we just had enough. We brought them home. They finished there, went to college, graduated. Happens every day, folks. Homeschooling is not difficult. It's not impossible. It can be done. I know this is a difficult time to be doing it in, but maybe it's, in other words, maybe the virus with all its restrictions and limitations, maybe it's opening doors to other ways of living. Maybe how we work is going to change. Certainly, how we healthcare has got to be more defined. The ACA was a place to start, and yet this guy's in court at the Supreme Court trying to take away your health care with nothing to replace it with. Again, it's all about a vision surrounding money that is so, well, it's abusive. It's just abusive and wrong. It's mobster-esque. I don't know. Figure it out. Take your time. See things for what they are instead of what you'd like them to be. Does no one any good to live there. So And anyhow, I guess that's it for today, and I won't see you again for this until Monday, unless wacky things happen, and then I'll do one, okay? I'll promise you that. If weird stuff comes up and it's like, I better get the cards out and take a look what's going on here, then I'll do that, and we'll do an impromptu, somewhat daily tarot and rune. Otherwise, I'll see you on Monday. But, check in on the esoteric influences. I'd love you to do that, and look for them every day. And take care of yourself, please. And be good to yourself. Be good to one another. Please wear a mask if you go out. And blessed be.